Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're listening in real time. Usually comes out on Monday mornings. It might come out different times at some point, but I am glad to be back. And this is recorded ahead of time. So I've been thinking a lot about this subject matter. And the last podcast, I mentioned some things about masculinity. And it's interesting that those are the things that are striking me these days. And this isn't full on about masculinity, but it's about who you're supposed to be. Okay, let's say in the grand scheme of things. I picked it up from somewhere. The title they had for it was "Temptations for Certain Things is Specific to What You're Supposed to Do." That's kind of the title. So what are you supposed to do? And how do you know what it is? Well, it's related directly to how you're tempted and when things you fall into on a regular basis. And I've seen some of these in my own life. It's not going to be a true confessions time, but I believe there's 5 of them. But it's really interesting that these big temptations, these big 5 on this list are things that I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get 3 of them, maybe even 4 of them I kind of get. Actually, I kind of get them all. So because I've struggled with each of them, and I wouldn't necessarily call them a temptation. There's some of these that are easier for me to have on the onslaught of, they come towards me and I can just push back. So this is Greatness from Small Beginnings. And what I appreciate about this time is that I get the chance to walk through things that I'm struggling with. And this week has been a hard week, and I've seen firsthand the things that I'm struggling with. Certain types of self-control or discipline where I want to come across a certain way, but I can't or won't control the look on my face or the frustration that I feel, or I tend, unfortunately, towards sarcasm in some cases, and it's quippy little comments. It's not sarcasm with entire sentences. It's not even funny sarcasm. It's hurtful and very pointed sarcasm. And I need to not do that. Temptations for certain things is specific to what you're supposed to do. Now, on this podcast, and I will mention it again and again and again, is I've been coached on the idea that think, be, do. That's the right order, okay? Think isn't just be cerebral. It's not like the great thinkers of old, Aristotle and whoever, and they're thinkers and they talk about all these things, and they ended up, some of them ended up rejecting God altogether because they were just, had so many thoughts. It's more about renewing my mind, which is a biblical concept. I need to renew my mind to think correctly. So when I do that, then I can be what I'm supposed to be, and the outcome is the do. So this, for me, is part of the process is, I need to hear this. I need to think through this, my things that trigger me. And then I say, okay, well, I'm supposed to do this, but what am I supposed to be to avoid the pitfalls of becoming that, of doing that thing? and then avoid the pitfalls of becoming something, I need to think properly about it. And again, I'm not a deep thinker typically. I like deep thoughts and difficult conversations and can admit when I'm not right or not up on something. But thinking is not the very first tendency for me. It's feeling. I feel things. I am intuitive about things. So that's where this comes from. It's the think, be, do. And this person said in this thing specific to what you're supposed to do. So think, be, do. I want to know what I want to become first, and then I want to know to get to what I do, I need to know what I'm supposed to become. So I do it well. I do it to the best of my ability, and then I need to think right about it. So number one, remember, this is about temptations. If you're tempted to smoke or damage your lungs, then your voice is meant to worship and be heard. The enemy is trying to silence you. If this is what you're supposed to do, then your tendency might be to do things that are damaging to that voice somehow. And I don't think it's just physical. I think it's damage your reputation or do things that are opposed to that idea that I want to worship. I want to be a worshiper, and I want to be a public worshiper. I want to be a bold worshiper. And one of the thoughts I've had recently is, do we put things online that, for instance, public prayer? Do I put that online because, especially at work, because my organization has to make sometimes difficult choices uh, in regards to people's employment, in regards to discipline, in regards to standards that everybody might not agree with. And these are not standards that are necessarily spiritual or morally based, but in business ethics, and they may disagree with what we think. And so we put out public prayer. Yeah, as a company, we do these things. What are they going to think about that? What are they going to say? Would they say it's hypocritical? So I don't think it's just physical in regards to the enemy wants to silence you. If you tend towards kind of the voice, the verbal side of things, damaging things, even with good voicing of things, that can also damage your reputation. Just some thoughts about that. That's probably the one I relate with the least of these four. So number two, crippling self-doubt and insecurity. All of us have a little of that. Most of us can, well, I wouldn't say all of us. Some people are just very bold and self-assured. And yet maybe that's an action more than it is. They tend towards action, so they look self-assured. And I know some people like this. I know that spent many years in Italy, and I witnessed him in America here, and he was a little lost. I wouldn't say bad, but he was a little lost because he didn't understand how America functions. He spent 45 years in Italy, but he's a very self-assured person, and yet he kind of felt like a failure. I think. I don't know if that's exactly the right way. I wasn't inside him of course, when this was kind of coming out that he did. I don't know if it was actually insecurity, but it looked like it to me. That he's like, the first time in my life I have self-doubt. But it says crippling self-doubt and insecurity because you were meant to inspire. If you're supposed to be inspirational, the best way to counteract that is by telling you you're worthless. You're not enough. I can relate with that. When I grew up, I was the short kid. I'm still not super tall. I'm 5'9" now, and I had grown earlier in my life to 5'10", give or take. And now my back is injured, been injured multiple times. Anyway, I've shrunk. It's no big deal. And some people would look at me and say, oh, 5'9" not that short. And yet I started high school when I was 4'11". I wasn't even 5 feet tall. I remember the day that I became taller than a girl. And that was a big day. I remember exactly where I was standing Is that important to me that this happened? A little embarrassing and yet very important. So, uh, do I have in me sometimes a crippling self-doubt and insecurity? Well, I wouldn't necessarily at this point in my life say it's crippling, and maybe that's my ego speaking, but sometimes I do doubt and I do have insecurity. And sometimes I just need to believe that I can get through it. I need to rely on God. I need to listen to what he thinks about me more than what I think about me or someone else or what I perceive others think about me. Because honestly, most of the time when we think that other people are thinking about us, we're thinking too much of ourselves because they're not paying any attention. They have their own issues. And that is the truth most of the time. Number three, distraction or procrastinate. Um, if you are tempted to be distracted or procrastinate, then you carry a strategy, a vision, and ideas from heaven. And the way that the enemy fights against you is to stop you, is to make you procrastinate. Then you don't then you don't get stuff done. You don't become what you're supposed to do. You don't even think right about it because it's just like, do it tomorrow. Well, if you do it tomorrow, if you decide to do it tomorrow, you're going to not do it tomorrow in most cases. So, distraction and procrastination is definitely one I can relate with. I've always said my dad was a championship level procrastinator. And it's not an insult to him. He was one of the nicest guys and loved relationships. He wouldn't procrastinate about those things. If he could spend more time with people, in particular, people he liked being around, uh, it was, it's definitely something. It's definitely something with him. Um, he procrastinated a lot, and yet he's been gone almost 30 years. He'd been in heaven in the choir for almost 30 years. Uh, But I remember in those early days when my wife would call him and say, Dad, I need you to come and do such and so for me. Man, he was all over that. He loved being around my wife and around the kids and doing things for my wife. He had this knack for serving and giving and acts of service, and he enjoyed it. He enjoyed when people did it for him, so he really enjoyed doing it for others. And my wife, doing it for my wife is a very good example. Although around the house and for my mom, maybe he wasn't so great at doing it because he procrastinated. He would not procrastinate though when he was motivated, when there was motivation behind it. So maybe that's where what was something we need to consider as we think through this. If you have that distraction or procrastination, then you are probably are a person of vision. And I can see that in myself. I'm always thinking about new ideas, new things to do, new projects to do, new businesses to start, new things going on. Fourth one that I have here is if you're tempted by lust or pornography, it's because you carry a deep capacity for intimacy, covenant, and healing. And that's something. And the enemy then is trying to preventing love the way you produce love is the deepest and most intimate kind of love and it's not weird or sexual. It's connection with people. And I lean that direction sometimes and I'm like, I actually really get this one that I'm supposed to be this person that loves. And yet I've seen in some stages of my life and even recently, I've seen the enemy try to pervert that in my soul. Not that I'm doing crazy stuff, not viewing pornography, but I see the things I'm attracted to, the things that catch my eye, the reels on the reels and the videos and the advertising and such on Facebook, very distracting to me sometimes. And sometimes I'll listen to it through a whole video, and by the time I'm done, I'm like, that was absolute garbage. Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. And I have to repent, like, Lord, please protect me from that. and it's trying to pervert my soul from what I'm good at, which is intimacy, connection, covenant, and healing on the love base. Number 5. Oof. Understand this one too. Fear of rejection or abandonment. You carry a spirit of belonging and reconciliation. If you're tempted by rejection and abandonment, especially one that kind of paralyzes you or makes you shrink back into yourself, then you carry a spirit of belonging and reconciliation. And you were made to gather uh, the outcasts of the world, the ones that are picked on, the unlovely, so to speak, or the ones left out. And the devil, he tries to make you an outcast, which I've actually experienced in my life, is that, man, I don't want to be this. And yet a little bit, I become this, I get this outcast mindset. Now, I think this is a good time to talk about the way we think about this. I saw a video where the guy says to two people, he was being interviewed, two people that were interviewing him. He said, now I want you to count to 10. When we get so far through this, I'm going to say go, and you're going to say your name. In your mind, start counting. Okay. So I'm going to say go once, you start counting. And I'm going to say go again, and you say your name. And he said, go. And so waited a few seconds, maybe 4, 5, 6 seconds, and said, go. And both the people said their name. And he said, okay, now think about this. What happened to the counting? And they were like, well, I stopped. That's because your brain has to listen to your mouth. This is why praying out loud, reading scripture out loud, um, affirmations of yourself and others out loud matters not just to them, not just to others, but it matters to you, because your brain has to stop and listen to your words. Now, I haven't thought all the way through that because I just saw this video recently, but I'm already starting to see my own tendency and that I need to be more positive. Another thing I heard recently is that if we just take a few days, the guy said 4 days and 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day, if we just think 15 minutes about gratefulness, the things we're grateful for, if we just consider the things we're grateful for and do our best to discipline ourselves not to let our minds wander into the things that we're not grateful for, that we don't love, that we are critical of, then we, like, there's chemicals that are developed inside of ourselves, and there's the chemical for that is produced where the body heals itself. There's several of them, but they are all produced through a regular gratefulness. And I'm like, wow, that is something else. And that means that I need to be regularly grateful to fight some of these temptations on the front end, so that I'm not only healed in body, but I'm healed in spirit. Because I think in God's economy, in God's world, they're connected. Almost all the time they're connected. So that's most of what I had to say, but you can see how this connects with the fact that small beginnings are where we are today in these things, in some of these 5 things, and maybe 1 or 2 of them, 3 of them you can relate with. And our thinking is off, and we're tempted because our thinking is off. Our doing is definitely off, but who we are inside is off, but our thinking is off. And we start with thinking, well, what are my triggers? How do I not be tempted about this? And how do I build hedges? How do I build good patterns of not being tempted by these things that might paralyze me or make me less than what I'm supposed to be in this world and in God's eyes? So what we are today, and then greatness. Greatness from small beginnings. We are small in many ways because we always need to be growing and moving forward. But I believe greatness is what God has in mind for all of us. And I don't think it's just me. I think God wants that for us. Speaking of that, one of my favorite, Zig Ziglar said, "You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness." Listen again. You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. Now go be great.